Perspective shift, unveiling paradigms and perceptions. Navigating Christian doctrines can be overwhelming. Returning to biblical interpretation is vital for clarity and unity. Shifting perspectives to align with the Word of God brings authenticity to our faith. Let's seek truth together with open hearts and minds. Perspective shift with Dare Akinsanya.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Perspective Shift, Unveiling Paradigms and Perceptions. I am your host, Dare Akinsanya, and today we are delving into an essential topic, that is the importance of stewardship and avoiding wastefulness. In our last episode, we discussed the open invitation Jesus extends to anyone seeking true satisfaction and contentment. His invitation is very simple. That is, no conditions required, no exclusions. And it's as though he were offering the ultimate life insurance plan. That is, no medical exams, no premiums required, no rejection. You cannot be turned down because of past mistakes or sins. It also includes living benefits while on earth. That's a premium life insurance package that is loaded with abundant life on earth and protection from eternal separation from God. This week, we are focusing on John chapter 6 verse 12. So, when they were filled, he said to his disciples, "Gather up the fragments that remain so that nothing is lost." From this, we glean on an important topic, and here is insight number 21. Not being wasteful. The Bible is filled with wisdom on the importance of good stewardship, whether it's about time, money, or opportunities, or whatever resource you can think of. Jesus himself emphasized this, calling his disciples to gather what remained after feeding the multitude so that nothing was wasted. The reality is, all of us have wasted some resources in the past at some point in our lives, whether intentionally or not. Many of us don't even recognize when we do until we reflect on how we've been using what we've been given, whether it aligns with how God provisioned them for us. These seemingly insignificant ways of wasting can easily be overlooked, but they add up over time. One of Satan's most subtle ways of stealing from us is through wastefulness. Whether it's about time, as we mentioned, energy, or even relationships. While it is impossible to avoid waste entirely, we can still strive towards minimizing them. This, in part, reflects what Jesus meant in Matthew 5:48 when he said that you shall be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. In this context, Jesus encourages us to strive for a love that goes beyond what is convenient or easy, a love that mirrors God's own, by loving and valuing everything and everyone he has given to us. We start to eliminate wastefulness as a result in all its forms by just simply following the principles in the Bible. Now let's take a look at the 8 types of waste identified in Jeffrey Liker's book titled The Toyota Way, which is now a framework often used in lean management and Six Sigma. These principles can be applied to our daily lives and spiritual growth. The first one is overproduction. Producing more than what's needed leads to waste. Toyota, of course, found that producing items which no orders had been placed led to inventory buildup, which takes up space and ties down capital. It also increases staffing and transportation costs. Today, many companies adopt a turnover ratio for inventory, which refers to the number of times an item is replenished over a certain period of time. Well, it could be weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannually, annually, or whatever. A high turnover ratio means that not enough stock is being kept, which could result in losing customers and overspending on shipping and labor costs. On the other hand, a low turnover ratio means that items are sitting in inventory too long, leading to higher overhead costs to store goods that aren't selling fast enough. The ideal turnover ratio, however, depends on the industry and whether the goods are perishable or not. God expects us to manage our resources prudently and not squander them. The story of the prodigal son is a classic example of wasteful living, which comes, of course, with unpleasant consequences. Luke 15:13 and 14. And not many days after, the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in that land, and he began to be in want. I used to think that wealth guarantees wise upbringing based on its ability to provide access to high-quality education. I have, however, found through life experiences and stories of people that notion can be very misleading, as parents have that high tendencies to actually spoil their children in the name of caring and providing for them. The story of the prodigal son paints that possibility quite vividly as well. The prodigal son was raised in an affluent home, but he only learned valuable lessons after he hit rock bottom. He squandered his inheritance through reckless living, leading to poverty and despair. Eventually, he realized his error when he found himself competing with pigs for food. In that moment of reflection, he understood that even his father's servants had better lives than he was currently experiencing. He therefore humbled himself and returned home remorseful. I am confident that after this experience, he never wasted any resource again, much less squandered them. Proverbs 21:20. There is desirable treasure and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man squanders it. The second type of waste identified by Toyota is waiting. That is, time on hand. This occurs when employees are left idle, waiting for the next step in the production process, or when clients experience delays before being served. A prominent example of this can be seen in the emergency rooms in America, all over the place, where patients often face excessive waiting times, in the ER for that matter. Healthcare leaders are still grappling to find effective solutions for this problem. On the average, wait times in the ER is around 4.5 hours, but in extreme cases, it can extend over 9 hours. Time is the single most expensive resource available to man, and we all have equal portions of it. However, while some people are making minimum wage, let's just assume that all the states in the US have caught up with the $15 an hour minimum wage stipulation. It is pertinent to note that some people are making over $8,000 an hour, and a few more elites are making upwards of $20,000 an hour. I'm sure they don't have two heads. They, of course, had positioned themselves to access valuable information and how to put those information to use, while many of us squander our time on frivolities. Don't even get me started on the social media menace. This is the highest form of drug abuse in this global age. Ephesians 5:16, redeeming the time because the days are evil. The third type of waste is unnecessary transport and conveyance. This concept can best be illustrated by the principles highlighted in Eliyahu Goldratt's book, The Goal. In the book, a production manager is mentored to identify bottlenecks in his production line and address them by first establishing an overarching goal. From there, he focuses on smaller incremental goals that, when combined, improved the main objective. This approach highlights the inefficiencies caused by unnecessary movement of materials or products and emphasizes streamlining processes to eliminate waste. This also can apply to unneeded steps that we take that don't add value. Proverbs 4:26 and 27. Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Remove your foot from evil. Unnecessary transportation is evil in our footsteps. The fourth type of waste is overprocessing or incorrect processing. This occurs when unnecessary steps are taken to achieve a goal, even though the same quality can be achieved without them at all. Attempting to produce a higher quality than what is required is also considered to be a waste. Perfectionism used to be something that was highly celebrated in the past, but results have shown that perfectionism is actually a menace, as it can cause significant delays in timelines, and the final product is really never truly perfect. Another example of overprocessing is when significant time and money is invested in something with the results that are not commensurate with the efforts and expense that we put in. 1 Corinthians 10:23. All things are lawful to me, but not all things are helpful. The fifth type of waste is excessive inventory. Holding on to more than we need causes delays and complications and makes it difficult to sort through what we need. It's like hoarding and greed, and Jesus warns us against greed. Luke 12:15, and he said to them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of the things he possesses. The sixth type of waste is unnecessary motion. Wasting time on unproductive activities is a wasteful endeavor. We may see somebody working hard, so hard, doing meaningless stuff. Yes, they are busy, but they're not moving an inch. That is waste, and the Bible warns against that. 1 Corinthians 9:26. Therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the air. That is, we must have some intentionality in the things that we do. Motion is not necessarily movement. There has to be forward motion for something to be said to be moving. The seventh type of waste is defects. This refers to errors that need correcting, often due to lack of attention. It is not good for a soul to be without knowledge, and he sins who hastens with his feet. So paying attention to detail helps us avoid costly mistakes. Number 8 type of waste is unused employee creativity or underutilized human resources. Failing to maximize the potential in people is a huge waste. This happens when the right people are not engaged in the right tasks. Often, the underlying reasons include personal conflicts, egos, malice, or insecurity. Regardless of what the reasons are, the outcome is the same. That is, it leads to wasted resources and missed opportunities. While some individuals may be seen as offering little to no value, this doesn't diminish their worth as human beings. Although treating everyone equally may be impossible, it is still unethical, according to biblical principles, to look down on others with disdain. Someone who may not seem valuable today could prove otherwise in the future. Even if they never contribute in ways that we expect, We are called by God to treat them with respect and dignity, not as if they are worthless. 1 Corinthians 13, 3-7. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And 1 Peter 4:10, as each one has received a gift, minister it to one another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. Romans 12:6, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them and not hoard them or sabotage them. Now that we have identified these types of waste, how can we prevent them? The first approach is by practicing contentment. Learning to be content with what we have helps us avoid the trap of constantly seeking more for no good reason. A second approach is by being mindful of our resources. Whether it's money, time, or energy, we should be conscious of how we are using what has been entrusted into our hands. The poor often spend recklessly, while the rich invest wisely. If we are not careful, wastefulness can become a habit that leads to poverty, not just financially, but in every aspect of our life. And the third aspect is by practicing stewardship. Recognizing that everything we have belongs to God shifts our perspectives. We become more diligent in how we manage our possessions. John 3:27 says, no man can receive anything except that which has been given to him from heaven. And the fourth way is by cultivating a heart of gratitude. When we are thankful for what we have, we tend to use them wisely. Grateful people are seldom wasteful because they understand the value of every blessing. And finally, by sharing with others. Anything that we consider waste or have no use for can be of immense value to somebody else. To wrap up, effective stewardship includes managing the resources, whether big or small, that God has given into our hands or entrusted in our hands. Luke 16:10, he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. When we manage what we have well, it positions us to even receive more blessings from God, who is the custodian of all blessings. The rich have investment mindset and they get richer. The poor have consuming mindset and they get poorer. The poor even borrow from the rich to consume optional pleasantries and pay high interest rates to pay back. Does it make sense that the one who can afford to pay high interest prefers to gain interest instead on the money by investing them, while the one who can barely afford an item they really don't need pays high interest on the money they borrow? Dave Ramsey said in his book, we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. And Warren Buffett also says, if you buy things that you do not need, soon you will have to sell the things that you need. So avoiding wastefulness is a reflection of godly stewardship. We may not be perfect, but as we strive to reduce waste and honor God with our resources, we become better stewards for even greater gifts. And remember, even the smallest resources, like the fragments Jesus instructed to be gathered, hold great value in His eyes. Heavenly Father, thank you for the blessings and resources that you have entrusted to us. We come before you asking for wisdom and guidance in how we can manage all that you have given us. Help us to be good stewards and be mindful of every gift, whether it is a small or big gift, or whether it's about our time or the talents that you've given unto us, that we are able to manage our resources the way you want us to. Lord, teach us not to be wasteful, whether in our finances or relationships. Let us always see the value in even the smallest resource that you've given unto us and be able to use them wisely for your glory. Guard our hearts against the temptation to be careless or selfish, and instead fill us with a spirit of gratitude and responsibility. May we honor you in our walk with you, in Jesus' mighty name. And with that, we have come to the end of this week's episode. Please connect with me via akinsd.com/podcast or through my YouTube podcast channel. Thank again for all the comments and testimonials, and please keep them coming. You will never know who they are benefiting. And as always, I hope that this episode has been of some value to you. And I want to thank you for listening. Have a great week ahead, and remember that Jesus Christ is Lord of all. Hallelujah. Amen.